for it to go. Hi, everyone. I am Sage Stevens, the host of Shout Out with Sage. Today on Streamin' Hub Radio, I'm so excited to have a guest with me that started her career at the William Morris Agency as a talent agent. And now she is on her own with her own marvelous agency here in LA. And I want to welcome to the show Lara Rosenstock.
Stock. Yes. It's sort of an unusual last name.
Lara Rosenstock of Lara Rosenstock Management here in LA. Hey, how are you? Thanks for coming.
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you started your career at the William Morris Agency, now known as William Morris Endeavor. What was that like? How did you get your start there?
That was so wild. That was just so well, I had I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry no matter what. And I got my degree in creative writing, thinking I would write. And I got my job at William Morris in the literary department to learn the business of that.
Right.
And I was driving from Malibu to Beverly Hills every morning and listening to K-Rock, Kevin and Bean show. And it was about an hour commute. And I just looked forward to Thursdays. Thursday, they had this show called Dingo Boy. And it was really funny. It had like a little opening song, like raised by wild dingoes in a place where he was from. And like Dingo Boy every episode would start with him knocking on a door, and you never knew who would be behind the door. And then when Pulp Fiction came out, we were all floored just in general about like what the industry was going to be, because that was like a groundbreaking movie. And so this one Thursday, it was Christopher Walken behind the door, and he is in that character from that movie. And he's saying, your dad gave me this watch I've been carrying for 20 years. And I was just like, I need to know who's responsible for this show. And Jimmy Kimmel used to call in the sports, and he did it in a very funny way. And I'm not really great at retaining sports information, but because he was so funny, I could retain it. But he was not at all who I was looking for. I wanted to know who created Dingo Boy, because it was like I looked forward to driving on Thursday morning. And so one day I was a secretary. I wasn't nothing at that time. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting around, there was no one around. And I'm like, I'm calling K-Rock. And I did. I just said, hey, it's Lara Rosenstock calling from William Morris. I want to know who's responsible for Dingo Boy. Call me back. 310-859-4000. And in less than an hour, I got a call from Jimmy. And I'm like, oh, you're I know you want an agent. You say it all the time on the radio, but I'm looking for who like creates the show. And then he explained to me how he and Adam Carolla do the show. And I said, okay, I'll take you to lunch. So I took him to lunch to a place where my boss used to like to go. And I was like, this is going to be a month's salary. But if I sign, I'll get all my money back. Okay. And so I took him to lunch. And, you never know what people are going to look like. We didn't have social media back in 90.
Right.
So, he was nothing to look at. That's for damn sure. Big of an, but he was we sat down. I was a little nervous, to be honest with you. He had a presence to him already. And he was pretty much no one, but we sat down to lunch, and I just said, you know what? I believe you. I believe that you can do this. Like he wanted to.
So what was it about Jimmy that you felt that he had that talent and that you did believe in him?
Well, everything is an exploration, like you don't know 100%, like this is it. You know what I mean? I don't think that's possible. I think you can have an inkling, and I think you can figure out how to shape someone and groom them. And within those confines of William Morris, I asked my boss to meet him. It was really cool. Stephen Weiss, I wish he was still here. Most of my mentors are not alive, which is really sad. But his father happened to be the chairman of William Morris. So I was in kind of a cool little pocket there. And Steve was really cool, and he loved Jimmy. And he's like, well, you got to figure it out. You got to convince this entire talent department
that he's the one and that he's worth it.
Entire talent department at that time was like, they were old, like, you know, queens, and they could give a fuck about a guy's guy, unattractive. You know, Gene Smart was their world. So it was kind of an uphill battle. I had to create a demo reel for him. It took about 6 months. I had to beg for materials from KTTV because he used to do like interview football players on the grass. And it did air, but the studio, I mean, the network didn't want to give me anything from there. So I was begging. So I learned how to be really aggressive. And I think that, you know, the feeling that I had was just, I knew I had it. I just knew I was right. And so eventually I found one person in the department who didn't just represent actors, but also represented directors. And he was a guy's guy, and he was head. So I got him to approve Jimmy. So I had a signing meeting of like 42 agents in the second floor conference room, which is insane because that never happens. Like if there's a signing meeting, it's a few heads. There's never that many people. But because I was new and they're like, who the fuck is this girl?
Hey, you can't use the F word.
I apologize. Retract. Anyway, so he said in the meeting, I want to be the next David Letterman. And this is 1993. Right. And look at him now, and he did exactly what he said.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got it. That's what turned me into want to be a rep.
How do you groom someone? Like, what are the steps to that?
You need to have materials. Back then, it was VHS, editing materials. And at the time, he didn't have anything. So I told him, which he still does now, to go on the street and ask people questions and film it, have someone tape it.
So sort of like
he came up with
modern-day TikTok.
Well, what he does on this show now, he asks people funny questions. And so we call that man on the street. And so he asked people, what was a Leguizamo? And William Morris had just signed John Leguizamo. This is showing how smart he is. Like, how did he figure that out? And because no one knew who Leguizamo was then either. So he did, and it was very funny. And so we put together this demo material, and that was part of the creating of who he is and how to represent him. So it was difficult, you know, like he didn't really fit into the talent department. He really wasn't like an actor. He really wasn't a stand-up. He worked very hard at becoming a stand-up, but he wasn't one. And
so he sort of went from radio host or radio personality to becoming a stand-up?
Yeah, well, he had to learn he thought that the department wanted him to learn how to be a stand-up because he was sort of in a bunch of different niche departments, which ultimately was like stand-up, like with Zach Galifianakis, Jamie Foxx, Jon Stewart, and we had all these people. These were developmental people then. And I became the liaison for the New York and LA department. I created, because at the agency like that, they tell you to create a niche for yourself. Okay. So I had to find a niche, and that, for me, comedy was very natural.
Okay. What other things did you learn from working at the talent agency?
Oh my gosh. Well, we didn't have lists, not lists, but we didn't have access to like all of the clients and everything that they're doing and what their obligations are and what studios they have a deal with and what conflicts they might have. So all this you had to have in your brain. So it's the amount of information that you had to put in that brain of yours and continue to learn every day. And plus, people don't want to tell you their business on top of it. Agents don't want to tell you what they're up to. Because they
like the other ones okay.
Someone's going to steal your idea. They're going to they're going to find they're going to entice your client away from you. I mean, it is very, very cutthroat. Very cutthroat.
What else did you learn or glean from working in that type of cutthroat environment?
I learned that I was really good at it. I got to use this part of my brain that I learned how to navigate in college. That's how I look at it. I went to Pepperdine, and there was a lot of politics in schools like this. So I learned how to navigate, and learning how to navigate that agency was huge, because there were a lot of old men, and there was no Me Too movement, and it was.
I could only imagine. Yeah,
I changed the entire. They have the mail room. You've heard about the mail room.
Yes, I've been there. I've been down there. I know what it looks like.
So I skipped over the mail room, but not on purpose. I wasn't planning on being an agent, so it really was kind of accidental. Which I just ended up loving it, and my bosses were really cool. So I would work. I represent my own clients while working for somebody, because you have to work. You work for a head, right? And so and I remember getting the HBO territory because no one wanted it. And I'm like, okay, all my friends at HBO are like, well, no one at William Morris returns my call. So I asked the guy whose territory it was, and I said, can I take it over? And he's like, I don't care. And that's a yes. I don't care is a yes. Right. That was, again, exciting. Like all this stuff just became really exciting.
So you got the HBO, and then how did that work out for you? Where did that take you?
Well, it was interesting because I was natural at negotiating, which just really came easily for me. And it just, got me into the coolest network, because it ultimately became the coolest network. And when you're networking with people, and they used to have the HBO Comedy Festival, which was HBO's, and all the comedians everyone would be in Aspen. And so I did that every year until there was no more festival like that. So I met so many people in the industry that way.
So you left William Morris and you went over to Bill Treusch and Associates in New York, correct?
Yeah.
And how did that happen, and why did you make that jump?
It's a very crazy thing I did, but I just always wanted to live in New York. I'm from LA, born and raised, and I was a dancer most of my life, and my younger years, I should say. And all my teachers were all New Yorkers, and they were so hard ass, with the accent, and they were just so hard on you, and you just loved it. You're like, the harder this teacher is, the more you want to impress them. So that was kind of the vibe for me. And I always got, you must be a New Yorker. And I would be like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. And so ultimately there was an opportunity. Mary had been there working with Bill for over like 13 years, and she was opening the LA office, and the head of the talent department recommended me, and I had a job working for a store. His story is interesting. He's known for having an eye for talent. He discovered Christopher Walken and Sissy Spacek, Diane Lane, Viggo Mortensen, Melissa Leo. His roster, like, he pretty much nailed it. And all these people were just more interesting, not necessarily beautiful looking. They were talented. And so that was a good fit for me, because that's how I roll even today. It's not about looks. It's about talent, and really good. When you have talent, your charisma makes you beautiful.
Exactly. So how do you pick your talent now? Like, how do you decide who to represent?
I really like referrals when it comes from a client I already represent, or if it's a casting director or a acting coach, because then I don't have to do a dog and pony show. I mean, I can do one. I can do it, but I don't want to have to. But yeah, how do I pick them? I find that I have a need for someone. There's like somebody that I don't have. You know, when I see the breakdowns and I submit, and there's opportunities for this certain type of character I don't have, that'll be a really good way for me to like consider this type of person. And so I asked them to send me materials. Um, I used to do meetings back in the day before we had, you know, before COVID. It was sitting
Right.
down with people or having them come into my office. And it, you know, you can find people who have a lot of talent, but it doesn't mean they're going to make it. Their
So
attitude,
I'm going to interrupt you. How do you find? How do you know? How do you know if they're going to make it,
you
or
don't.
you don't? You
You
just
don't. You don't,
don't.
because the thing that like 99% of actors, why they don't succeed is because uh, they have a mechanism set up for them to um, self-sabotage,
Okay.
and you watch it happen, and they do it, and then it's hurtful because ultimately you're at the end of that, meaning they leave you
Mm.
after all the work you've done for them.
Can
uh,
you see? Can you see if someone's going to do the self-sabotage in advance? Like, are there signs or?
Signs, yeah, there's definitely signs. I mean, I'm at this point I get to be so tough. It's great. No, it's true. It's like I don't have a lot of patience for people who aren't like efficient and work in a timely manner, because this business works so fast. You have to be available. You have to be able to put together an audition that rocks in a matter of no time. And don't give me, you know, well, we're supposed to have 42 hours, SAG said. Really? Well, that's not how the world works. And, you know, Fran Drescher can tell you that she made this great deal, but that ain't the way it works. Like, it is what it is. They don't have time. And I don't either. And if you're not timely, and if you're not giving me great auditions or coming up with tons of, you know, excuses for things, it's just a no. It's a no. But you have to try. You have to try people out. And I have my own way of doing it. I can't explain. I think with everybody is a little different. It depends on what I think might be their weakness, is where I seek to find out if that's a weakness or if they're going to surprise me and just make me happy.
Cool. So you're saying that if someone wants to be successful as an actor, then they need to, you know, be efficient, be on their toes, be talented. What else? What are all the things that?
Participate in your career, you know. Um, I have people who they just sit around waiting for things, and I'm like, what are you waiting for? You need to be involved in your career. I'm not. I can't want it more than you. Um, and each one of these people define who I am as a manager. So if they're not complimenting me by way of them doing good work, I don't want to be with them. I don't want them representing me. It's a tarnish.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're both trying to get somewhere, and I understand that as well. Like, I've worked with lots of people, and sometimes after you work with them, you're like, why did I? Why did I?
I mean, but that's life. I mean, you know, you don't
Yes,
know until you try.
yes. You don't know until you know. Can you share a particular moment that you've had in your career so far that was really special to you, or that you were really proud of?
I can be proud of small things, which is still nice because a lot of my friends and ex-colleagues aren't aren't enthusiastic anymore, and I
Right.
still am after all these years, and I've been beat up, and anybody that's been doing it this long has been beat up in every way, shape, and form.
Mm.
So I don't know. I can't at this moment. You're just kind of, it's a great question, but I don't have a
An answer.
pivotal moment. I think signing Jimmy Kimmel was huge for me,
Yeah,
just
that,
because I was only a secretary at that time, and that was just a phenomenal win. And getting to develop him for 4 years, and and getting these agents who don't want to do anything involved. I just, that made me, I was very proud of myself in that regard. And I guess overall, I'm proud of myself for all the negotiations and all the deals that I've made. I mean, a lot of these deals are test deals. So you are making deals all the time, and doesn't mean the client's going to get the job, but you make the deal first. So that is fun. I love making deals because I get to use my brain.
What would be a tip for being a good negotiator? How to get a good deal?
Standing your ground, knowing your climate, knowing what you're dealing with, knowing that knowing what you can ask for, and understand what they're offering, because I've dealt with agents who don't know what they're doing. And it's mostly that way in general. Like, it's almost flipped. The way that I manage is like, I'm both the manager and the agent, and they're basically to do the paperwork. Like, literally, I don't need them. And a lot of my clients don't want them. They're like, I'm fine without you. And then, without them. And then other clients just like the idea of having an agent. But I've made deals with them and I'm like, you don't understand this deal, do you? Because you don't understand this particular aspect of what just happened and what we're agreeing to. You're not explaining it right to the client because you don't know. Because you don't know what you're doing. So people don't, they just say, oh, I'm going to be a manager. Oh, I'm going to be an agent. It can't be that hard. It's not brain surgery. That's for sure.
Well, exactly. But there's obviously some people that are better at it than others. With that, for people that are not necessarily familiar with the entertainment industry, what is the difference between a talent agent and a talent manager?
The official answer to that question is that an agent is supposed to solicit work. That's their job. Their job is to hustle and get the job. Manager oversees the career of the client.
Okay.
So I'm a personal talent manager. So the word personal is there because I need to know a lot about my client to know how to take care of them and pitch them and make sure that we have the same vision when we were moving forward. At first, you're kind of taking what you can get, but a manager is more of a CEO if you're my client, Sage, then I'm the CEO of you. So I find your agent, I find your publicist, I find your attorney, I find we do it together, but I suggest who, after working with this, someone I know who I think would be good for them. And I know who I think I'd like to be working with. So we use all these little things to everyone's advantage, basically. And that's how I've built relationships over the years, is by way of getting to that point where I have a deal. We have I can negotiate it, no problem, but I can also bring in these high-end people to help us, which we don't need. I don't need their help, but we now have a team.
Right.
And that's part of that's what a manager does. An agent isn't necessarily going to be like, oh, I should get you a manager.
Right.
Because they just think you're going to take that person away. Like it's all about trying not to lose your client.
I see. How important is networking and building those relationships to your career and or an actor's career?
Well, when I was younger, I have to say I put like 150 million% of my energy into being everywhere. And I don't know how I did it. I say I didn't sleep till I was 35. And even then, I don't think I slept, because I was the first one in, last one out, went to every taping of every TV show that was William Moore's package, movie premieres, parties, and we were all in it together. Everyone was kind of getting promoted. You'd be like, oh my god, like yay, we were just, it was kind of like a group effort at the point when we were all coming up. And then everybody is so high, it's like such a huge high level. Then things start to, you see some people help people out, some people don't, relationships are burned, da da da. But for me, the networking part was really about coming up, and just covering the whole, like, you know, I don't know, the pavement, I guess. And so after having so many signing meetings, I would have agency meetings, and we'd go to see like maybe 10 different agencies for this one client. And there'd be 20 people in the room. Like, that's how I met you. And the other thing I did at William Morris, which never was done before, is my boss would go to network meetings and studio meetings with the department, and I would say, "Can I go?" And
you would, yeah.
And so I went to all the meetings, and I did all the internal meetings too. So I was like, "Well, can I be in that meeting?" "Well, if you can do all your work, yes." So I changed the entire training process. Now they do that, but nobody did that before, and their answer was nobody asked. Nobody's ever asked. So
did you ever feel when you were at William Morris that sometimes you got things because you were a woman, and sometimes maybe you didn't get things because you were a woman? No?
It was very hard. They made it very hard. There were probably 5 women agents worldwide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and all white. You know, you didn't see a lot of Latins. You didn't see a lot of Black people. It was an old school agency, and some of the newer agencies had a lot more women. I saw a lot more women, you know, in higher positions, but not old school.
You started your own company. How did that come about for you, and what obstacles did you have when you first started out on your own?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a choice I made. It was not like, oh, but I moved back to LA from New York, and I had to find a job. And I got a job working in a management company with this guy who used to be a publicist, and he was just slimy. And he changed his name, and he was this guy from Beverly Hills High that people knew as like a shyster. And I was like working with him for 2 minutes, and I'm like, I got to get out of here, but I need a paycheck.
Right.
So I had to stick with it for a while, and I hated working there. And then he ultimately couldn't pay me. He couldn't afford to pay me. So he had to let me go. And I'm like, this is really sad because I need the money, but I hate being here. And then I got a job, and I said, next time I get a job, I want to be a partner. I don't want to be just an employee. So then that happened. And then those 2 people that I joined, they were despicable. And it made me so sick. I was so sick. I couldn't even be there anymore. I literally was.
Okay. I know you're not going to be able to tell me who they are, but
they're so insignificant at this point. But the point is that they each wanted me to go with them, and I got really sick, and I said I have to work from home because this commute is killing me, and I can just do this from home.
Right.
I have a fax machine.
What was it about them that was so despicable? Like just
integrity, like you know, just people are shady and just just low bar, low class. And I had the sterling reputation, and I'm like, why would I? You know, I don't want to be associated with this.
I understand.
They were low end. They were really low end. And
you just didn't like how they did business.
Obviously. But so then they decided that they weren't going to pay me. And I just, within 24 hours, I already had my ex-husband make my logo for me. I don't know if you've seen it, but I love my logo.
Yes.
And I had already, I mean, if there's something obviously I had in the back of my mind, like if I'm independent, if I don't have a job in between time, I need to have a company, which I did in New York too. You don't have all this time to listen. But the point is that I turned over, you know, I became my own company within 24 hours. and I had a messenger. I got the breakdowns delivered to my door, and I was like, how do I make money? Oh no, now I got to figure out that. Like, and so my thing became just character actors. I found my niche, and I love character actors. Like a Helen Mirren is a character actor.
I love her. She's one of my faves.
Yeah, people like, you know, I mean, they're, you know, Melissa Leo. I mean, you may not love her as a person, but you know,
I don't personally know her, so I don't know.
But these people are not gorgeous, but they're really talented. And there's a lot of roles. You know, back then there was The Practice and The West Wing. There was lots of roles for judges and attorneys and stuff like that. And I'm like, nobody cares. They just want to find these young, pretty people who can't act. So my niche became that, and that's how I figured it out. And I never looked back.
Sorry, you're making me cough laugh.
I'm making you laugh. Well, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you cough, but if I make you laugh, I'm happy.
Well, since we have a little moment here, I am going to take a moment to thank my sponsor for today, which is Rage the Label. These hats, which our guest today, Laura, will receive one. And online, we have a special 10% discount with my promo code, which is Rage Sage, and that's a 10% discount. So if you want to go check out the hats are cool. They have these all different colors, purple, black, white. I think there's different logos as well. So check it out. Okay, Lara, let's keep going. So this is Shout Out with Sage. And is there someone that you'd like to give a shout out to that was really pivotal in helping you in your career? A mentor or a friend or someone that, either pushed you or helped you in some way get going?
I have people who weren't horrible to me.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It is. I when I saw that question, I was like, this is going to suck because I don't have one. I never did. And that is why I do what I do, because I'm the mentor for others.
That's fine. I've had people on the show who've had not exactly the same, but similar answers.
Yeah, no, I'm not ashamed of it. I just don't. I mean, it would be nice if I could say, oh, this one pushed me, but no one pushes you.
Or someone that helped you, or
it's definitely up to you if you want to grin and bear it.
Or sometimes opportunities arise that someone reached out to you or something.
Well, the only thing I would say, I wouldn't say the only thing. I really don't. I don't have a mentor.
It doesn't have to be a mentor necessarily, just someone that was nice to you, that helped you or something.
I think I would say, the people my initial bosses at William Morris they really appreciated me, and we got along, and I did a great job for them, and they showed their appreciation by supporting me.
Okay. So. Oh, that's cool. That's nice. What is the best piece of sage advice you would give to an actor looking to make it in Hollywood?
I would say, make sure this is what you want to do. If you have a plan B, I don't think this is for you. Please find out if you're talented or not. Like, if it means, class, going to, acting class, I mean, you'll know by your peers if you're good or not. I mean, I would say challenge yourself every single day. And it's really hard because it's hard everyone's like, oh, I need an agent, I need a manager. But what you really need you need talent. And you need perseverance, and if you get knocked down, you got to be able to get right back up. And it's not easy. It's easier said than done, because there's a lot of rejection, and not getting a job feels like rejection. Even if the same casting office or the same show keeps asking you to audition,
Right.
That's the sign. That's a sign that you're doing something right. If that doesn't happen, then it's not really, and a lot of people don't get good reps. So there's that too. And they'll blame the whole situation on not having a good rep. But it really, I mean, you got to be doing 90% of the work. And that means being involved, having groups of friends who are in the acting community, sharing information with them and supporting each other, helping each other with auditions. That's a really good way to like keep yourself involved enough to know if this is for you or not.
Are there any opportunities that you yourself have said no to that you now in hindsight feel you should have said yes to?
I don't think there's anything I didn't say yes to. I think there are things I could have done differently had I been guided better, which is going back to why I don't have a mentor.
Gotcha.
Being guided, not being guided is
Yeah.
when you're around people who could be guiding you well.
Yeah. It's definitely helpful to have people to bounce ideas off or give you advice, or people who've already been through those scenarios.
Yeah. But everyone is worried about their job, Sage. It's really sad. It's not kumbaya.
Oh, I know the agency thing isn't kumbaya. I have no.
I'm not saying to you. I'm saying to your
to the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go to LA and everybody will
Yeah,
be nice.
it's brutal. It's brutal. Your best friends will take your clients.
No, I know. It's like, well, it's sort of, I don't know. It's sort of like when I go out sometimes, some guys are like, oh, bring all your girlfriends, I'm like, what, you think I just have this herd of girls that follows me around and I can bring them? Like most girls in LA, like, yeah, you know what it's like. I mean, it's, if I can even get them to show up, everyone lives too far away, or they're going to have 20 questions. Where is it? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's sort of digressed a little, but we're sort of I'm trying to make it sort of similar. It's like definitely LA in entertainment.
Yeah, and the other thing is, here's what's brutal is like people move here. I'm from here, so I have like I know when people say, "Oh, I've lived here for 20 years, I've lived here for 30 years," I'm like from here. It's not the same as being from here. Specifically, I mean, I grew up in the entertainment business in the sense that, like, when you're a kid in LA, Beverly Hills, whatever, they throw you right into dance class. They throw you into acting class. I mean, that's just what everyone does. And some people gravitate towards it and some don't. I was obsessed. I loved it. And I was like a workaholic in every way. So I still kind of take that acumen. I do take that acumen to what I do now. But it's people come here to take. That's what they do. They come to LA. They've got a dream. Someone told them they were pretty in high school back in Arkansas, and they move out here and they're like, I'm going to be, famous no matter what it takes. And, so people are just here to use you. And so for me, that figuring out how to not have those people be near me
yes
is a challenge.
You do have to have a very high filter here. That I do agree with. So let's go on to something more positive with the new year happening and everything. Where do you see yourself and your business and your career going this year?
I mean, I have a good feeling. I'm a little sad that the new year's already here, just because I don't really know if I felt like I got a break. But what I'm looking forward to is hopefully the business getting a little bit stronger. I've been really fortunate. All my clients are, working in one way or another. It's not the same money it used to be back in the day. Everything has just changed, and everything is, now it's NCIS Sydney. It's, all these franchises. That's what you're getting. And that's great. Like, listen, franchises are the best. Residuals, real network, streaming, there's no residuals. I mean, people are like, oh, I want to be the lead on a Netflix show. I'm like, actually, no, you want to be a lead on a CBS, NCIS franchise that lasts forever.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And, that's, so basically you just need one. I feel like I have a couple, more than a couple that are, really promising. I'm surprised how well we did after the strike, because that was just brutal. 1 whole year of no income for us. And then the business changed completely. So everybody is hoping for a lot of production, a lot of TV, a lot of film, straight up, not just independent stuff. And, bring it on.
Speaking of streaming and Netflix, how has technology changed what you do in your job?
I think it's saved a lot of time, in the sense that these auditions, online auditions, first of all, I get to see them. I don't have to rely on my client not calling me after an audition, or calling me after an audition and not knowing how to explain how it went in the room. Because if you don't tell me how it went in the room, I don't know how to fix it. If you just completely flatlined, I'll be like, okay, his mom just died. He got in a car accident. His car was towed, and he just needed he needed a minute. Can you see him again? I used to do stuff like this. Okay. If someone had 2 auditions at the same time, and one had to be in Manhattan Beach and one had to be in NBC Universal at the same time, I was like, well, you're going to put them on tape anyway, right? So why don't you put them on tape? Oh, we don't do that. I'm like, well, can you do it this time? I mean, I also changed that. So what I like about it is that, the breakdowns are coming out 24/7. They never stop. So that's kind of a lot of work. It doesn't just end at a certain hour, done with work. It doesn't stop. And then the other thing is that, I get to watch the auditions, which is great. And I get to see where people are. I really get to see if they nailed it, and a lot of times I get 5 or 6 clients getting the same audition, and they're completely different. They can look on IMDb and say, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Oh, wow. If they choose another person, it's a choice. It's a type. It's not that you didn't do a good job or they didn't do a good job.
Right.
So, in that sense, the industry it's remote, and I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I am a little bit of a hermit, which is kind of not great. But for me, I can get a lot done. I can get a lot more done, and I can have more clients.
Cool. What would you leave us with for where can we find you on social media, all that type of stuff?
Well, I think you know me enough to know that I'm not that great with social media. I could make it my business to learn how to be better at it.
We're working on it.
I'm open to suggestion and help in that regard.
Do you want people to follow you on social media, on Instagram, or how?
I think if I wanted to promote everything that everyone was doing every minute, it does draw. I mean, a lot of clients like that, and then some will be like, well, you're paying more attention to this one. Or it's a full-time job.
I know, babysitting all of it. I know.
No, it's not babysitting. It's just, listen, if you guys are going to post, share it on mine. like, you're welcome. Please do that because it'll help me out and we'll get your followers and mine.
Right.
And that I would appreciate. But if I have to create it, then I'm going to get like, 13 hits of like or whatever.
We're all good. We're all good. Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I want to thank Lara for giving us these stories and making me laugh so much.
I love making you laugh.
So with that, we will see you next week. And I hope everyone has a happy new year. Oh, yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. And we will see you next time. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks.